What's going on, guys? It's IcyRhythms. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about the PlayStation 5. What I want, what I expect, and some of these rumors and so-called leaked specifications already here in 2018. I just don't know if I'm buying it. I'm sure there is truth to about two of them, right? Where there's smoke, there is fire. I want to say, because Microsoft and Sony lock these things down well in advance. Same with Nintendo. I would say that they will have the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox specs locked down before the end of this year or sometime early next year. But I don't expect them to release the console until at the earliest 2020 and probably even 2021. I think it's just a matter of it's all a thing of what Microsoft and Sony want to do. Like, how far do they want to push the boundaries? What sort of freedoms do they want to allow third parties to have? Their first parties, you know, Sony's really going to push everything bleeding edge as much as they can with their systems, and they have some of the most talented developers in the industry, period. I mean, you can like PlayStation, you can hate PlayStation, you don't have to own a PlayStation, you can be a Nintendo fanboy, a Microsoft fanboy. Objectively, right, Sony is getting the most out of their machine. And then second, I think you'd have to say Nintendo. Obviously, there's a big art style difference between Sony and Nintendo games, but Nintendo is really pushing their consoles as well, in my opinion. But I think, objectively speaking, those two things can't be denied. Now, with that said, I don't know if I'm buying a lot of these leaks and rumors, but I do think that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox will have some form of custom Ryzen chip on the CPU side of things. And if I had to guess, if we're just going to venture off a little bit, if I had to guess on the GPU side of things, I think you're looking at something the equivalent of like somewhere between like a 1070 and a 1080, or maybe just like a flat out, you know, the power of a 1080. And you know, with the power of a 1070 or even a 1080 on a console, with the way they optimize and with the, you know, talent that guys like Sony and Nintendo have, and Microsoft to a much lesser extent, but I do think they have the talent. Obviously, Gears of War 4 is one of the most impressive games this generation, but with power like that, if they're gonna throw something in there that's like, you know, custom equivalent of like a 1600 Ryzen 1600X or a 1700 or something, 6 cores 12 threads, or like a really good 8 cores 16 threads, you're gonna have an absolute beast. I think, and this is just what I want, I think it would be great if we could finally push for 60 FPS as standard, because if it becomes standard on console, then a lot of the AAA developers would almost have no excuse why a lot of those games would hopefully not run poorly on PC, or garbage ports that us as PC gamers, primarily PC gamers, seem to receive somewhat often, right? A lot of people will say that PC gets bad ports all the time. That's coming from a place of ignorance. For every bad port, there's probably 150, 200 games that run just fine. A lot of the time what happens is the AA and AAA stuff have the most issues, I find, in my opinion, from my own experiences, and I think just doing a little bit of research on Google and things like that, I'm not alone in feeling that way, right? It is oftentimes, like I said, the AA and AAA games. Admittedly, though, I think, and I have been on record telling this to friends before, if Sony and Microsoft, and Nintendo for that matter, were to push as 60 FPS as standard, right, with every game. Now, I don't mind a couple of frame rate drops here and there where it's going like 57, 58. There's going to be some stuttering, some bad frame pacing, some poor frame times from time to time. That kind of thing happens on PC. Now, on PC, with a lot of those games, you can fix it. There are community fixes, or you can just download a couple of apps that try and fix that themselves. But little things like that, it's not as big of a deal. As long as I'm getting 60 FPS most of the time consistently, that's awesome. But I think with shooters, what I would want to see, any sort of like Doom-like game or competitive games, is to unlock those, and just whatever the power of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox, and if Nintendo has some sort of like Switch Pro or Switch Elite or something, whatever the power of those are, I'd like them to unlock frame rates so we can play at 90 FPS or 100 FPS, or maybe even more than that, with especially like the CPU power that those may offer, right? There's no guarantee. There is no guarantee. Sony and Microsoft, while they will buy in bulk, so they'll get them at a very good price, they're going to go the lowest possible end that they can while still being pretty good. So hopefully by that time, you know, they'll be able to throw something like I said, the equivalent of a 1600 or a 1700 Ryzen in there, custom of course. I mean, it's not going to be just like those, but that would be great, where we can unlock those frame rates and have, you know, good power coming from the GPU side as well. And, you know, you don't know until you experience it. And I game on monitor, even when I play on console these days. I just can't do it, right? And if Sony and Microsoft also start to take advantage of and push the idea or the narrative of, hey, you know, stuff like G-Sync and FreeSync matter, that's going to be great. Now, I think G-Sync probably won't happen because they're likely not going to go NVIDIA. It's probably, I think we're all in agreement, 90% certain that it's going to be an AMD build again with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox. But just to be able to push things like that and even just only have FreeSync in mind, I think that's going to be huge for gamers. It's going to be even bigger when they start including that in, you know, 4K TVs and things like that. Maybe they've already done that. Maybe there's like some of the more expensive ones or something that has some sort of, you know, FreeSync or G-Sync type technology. I don't know. I don't think so. Someone can let me know down in the comments section. I'm not entirely sure. TVs, really not my thing. Monitors, the way to go for gaming, whether you're on console or TV, in my opinion. I know some people, you know, they like the comfort of their couch and having that big 50, 60, 70-inch TV. I get that, but man, the monitor is, for me, it's just superior in every possible way, and I'd rather game like that. Maybe, I know I'm not alone, I know I'm not alone, but that's what I'm expecting. I mean, what I'm expecting and what I want, and what the reality will be. Have you heard about that? The reality versus expectations versus reality. What will actually happen with the PlayStation 5 is going to be different than what I want. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I still think we'll get a lot of 30 FPS games, especially from those games that really push all the best technology they can out of the machines, drain every possible juice they can from the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox. I think it was DICE, or maybe it was Criterion, years and years ago when they made Burnout Paradise, and they said the truth is every developer uses 100% of the power of a console 100% of the time. Now what happens at, you know, crunch time or the end of development, when there's got to be polishing and, you know, sacrifices have to be made, those are two different things. So how much truth there is to that, and whether that's always the case, I don't know. I'm not a games developer. I'm just going off of what some developers have said in the past. I also think it goes without saying that when the PlayStation 5 and Xbox do release in 2020, 2021, whatever it's going to be, having something that's the equivalent of, you know, one of those Ryzen chips that I mentioned, or on the GPU side of things, like a 1070 or a 1080, those will obviously, especially in the world of PC, be considered pretty outdated, which was the case with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. We all talked about that. Even console gamers talked about that. Those that knew even just a little bit, had some tech knowledge, knew that those were very outdated machines upon release, right? So if that's going to happen like that, those cards, those GPUs, those on the CPU side of things, you're looking at 3-4 years old, maybe more, depending on when they actually come out. And that's very dated. Now, it doesn't really matter. It's sort of irrelevant depending on the talent of your first-party studios and the talent of third-party studios, which we know is really good a lot of the time. I think, I mean, most of the time I play third-party games for the most part, and I find them to be just as talented, if not more so in some cases, than a lot of the first-party studios. So it just kind of depends. It depends on the care that some of these developers take with ports to PC, or, you know, getting each game to work on consoles the way that they design them to be. So it's all gonna be a thing of, obviously, wait and see. We don't have anything concrete. We don't have anything 100% confirmed from Sony and Microsoft, obviously. And I did mention a Switch Pro or Switch Elite because I do think there will be some sort of mid-generation upgrade for that coming from Nintendo. And I think there's already been some leaked, you know, specs or rumors going around about that, and that started like 5 or 6 months ago. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Those are my expectations, what I think will be the reality, my wants, maybe needs as a gamer at some point. But I would really love, I think above all else, there to be a really big push for 60 FPS as the standard. I think that would be great for gamers, great for everyone. But if they're going to continue to push 4K, if 4K native is going to be a big thing next generation, I can probably just throw that whole 60 FPS thing out the window, because that means that's going to require a lot from the hardware, and there won't be tons and tons of games that run at 60 FPS unless they're very linear. A lot of the better open world stuff probably won't happen unless there's mid-generation upgrades again. We will see, but if they push that 4K native, if they do that, then, like I said, a lot of that 60 FPS want that I have can just be thrown right out the window. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think. What are your wants? What do you consider to be your gaming needs, if there is such a thing? What is the expectations versus reality in your book? Let me know. Thank you guys again. Thank you for the continued support. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Twitch. Links in the description, and more videos to come very soon. Thank you guys for watching. Take care. Peace.